Chapter 32. When Siv first came to the audition, she had expected some kind of special treatment. So when she registered and the girl behind the table asked for her name, she first said, "Siv Brandt," and winked, half expecting the girl to say, "Ah, you're Siv Brandt. This way, please. We've been expecting you." But the girl just drew a line under her name and gave her the bib number. Next, Siv got a little confused, so she said, "I'm Siv Brandt," and really double winked at the girl. "Do you have something in your eye?" "No, I'm Siv Brandt." "Okay, I'm Annabella Green." And that was when Siv realized that they could not possibly have told everybody the contest was rigged. It would have been impossible to keep a secret. It was probably just the judges and the production manager who knew about it. That was how she would do it, making sure that as few people as possible knew about it. Then you also had to share the money with less people. Smart. Later, when she had been waiting for hours, she felt like it actually would have been a good idea to get some special treatment. She didn't have to jump the queue, but she could have paid $1 million for a bed and someone who gently woke her up and whispered, "Siv? Siv, wake up, sleepyhead. It's time to go up on stage." And then she would stretch out her arms and legs, go up on stage, do her act, and then go back straight to bed. Wake up the next day when everyone else had gone home and everything roundabout was quiet. She honestly could not wait until it was time to go up on stage. But now that she was backstage, she was like, No, it's fine. You can go ahead. I'm fine. Don't you worry. I'm just freaking out." But then one of the guys working there came up and said, "Okay, we can't wait anymore. You either go up on stage or get the hell out of here." Jeez, she was just trying to be helpful. Can you imagine how moody they would be if she decided to block the entire competition and said that no one was allowed to go up on the stage until her mental breakdown was over? The only other option was to let the people go ahead. Unless you would ban people from having mental breakdowns altogether, which was just absurd. But they probably saw this kind of thing all the time. They probably thought that she was just nervous about the show. She pressed her index finger against her head like a pistol and pretended to blow her brains out. She even did sound effects, and then the thoughts were gone. She always did this if she had some terrible thoughts, bad memories, or something else she did not want to think about. It worked surprisingly often, and if it did not work the first time, she could always try again. But then that stupid guy came and told her that she had to leave or go up on stage. So now she was standing next to the stage. The guy put his hand on her back, but she just shrugged it off. "Just go," he said. She marched out with a pounding heart and halted in front of the microphone, standing with her arms behind her back. "Hi there," Matthew Brooks said. He sat to the right, and was known to be an asshole who always said the truth, not because he wanted to be hurtful, but because it was the truth. Siv could empathize with a person like that. "Hello." "You seem very dressed up for today." She looked down at her clothes. "No, these are just my normal clothes." "All right. And what is your name?" "Siv. Siv Brandt," she said, and winked as much as she possibly could, so the judges would be able to see it, all the way down at the table where they were sitting. But they didn't react. But that was expected. Of course, she realized that they couldn't go, "So you're Siv Brandt, gotcha," and wink back. That would be suspicious. But she could laugh when she imagined what was going on in their heads right now, all nervous. Oh, okay, so this is the girl we have been waiting for. Now we have to pay some extra attention." Maybe someone thought, why didn't they let her jump the queue so that we could see her act and go home? I'm tired. "And you think you can win this?" "Oh, definitely." "Good, and where are you from?" Siv froze. She'd especially told the producer guy that the judges were not allowed to ask her that question. That idiot must have forgotten to tell them. So now, Siv was in a conundrum. She could not tell the truth, but Siv wasn't the kind of person who would lie or distort the truth, so she just said, "You are not allowed to ask me that question." Immediately, this weird and unpleasant atmosphere lowered itself over the theater. The judges looked weirdly at each other. What the hell is wrong with her? But then one of them tried to save the situation. "So, if you won £100,000, how would you spend it?" Siv just looked at him like he was stupid. How could he not know that she was extremely rich? Hadn't the producer guy told them everything? Wasn't it pretty self-explanatory that if she paid £1 million to win a competition where you won 100,000, that the prize money didn't matter shit? Seriously, had the producer guy not told them anything? An unpleasant thought hit her. What if the producer guy had kept most of the money for himself and just given them, say, £10,000 each and said, "Well, that is all there is. I've shared the money evenly among us all," and then rubbed his hands with satisfaction? The question would make sense, but not the situation. Why would they allow someone that only had paid $40,000 to win the entire competition? Then everyone would do it. Anyhow, that was all pure speculation. In the end, all she could hope for was that the producer guy at Airbrush Media, who had accepted £1 million to falsify the whole contract, was an honest man and had shared the money fairly. And if he hadn't, well, that was not her problem.
"I would not do anything,"
Siv said truthfully.
"You cannot buy anything I want with money."
When she thought about it, that wasn't really true, but it was too late to change that now. She could not very well say, "Oh, wait, excuse me, sorry, that was not entirely true. Turns out that there actually is one thing I want that you can buy with money, and that's to win this contest."
"Right,"
Matthew Brooks said.
"Can we just see the act?"
"Sure."
Siv backed up a few steps. Her lab equipment was already standing there. A girl ran out to get the microphone.
"So, don't know how many people know about it. Probably not that many,"
she said and chortled at her own joke.
"But almost all life is made up by amino acids."
When the first judge hit the buzzer, Siv was so shocked that she completely stopped and just stared at the X. And since she didn't say anything or even move, it just took a few seconds before the other judges hit the buzzers too. A murmur went through the crowd. Siv looked as if she had been hit by an arrow through the heart.
"Okay, thank you, Siv."
"Did she freeze?" Matthew Brooks said and looked at the others.
"I don't understand."
"What's it that you don't understand, darling?"
"Why you hit the buzzers?"
"Well, where to start?"
Matthew Brooks said gleefully, because there was just so much to talk about.
"For starters, you come up here on stage looking like a clown hippie."
"These are just my normal clothes."
"Well, you look like a clown slash hippie slash witch."
Siv felt offended. Witch? Why didn't he just slap her on the tits and call her a chemist? Siv always used that expression when she felt offended. It was very versatile. You could, for instance, be in a restaurant and look on the menu.
£34 for a shrimp sandwich? Why don't they just slap me on the tits and call me a chemist?
Or when someone bumped into you on the street without saying sorry.
"Oh, okay, why don't you just slap me on the tits and call me a chemist?"
You get the picture.
"And you have a really nasty attitude,"
Matthew Brooks continued, playing with a red pen.
"Well, I specifically told the producer at Airbrush Media that you weren't allowed to ask me where I'm from, so that one's your fault,"
Siv said correctly, washing herself clean of any guilt, and then she said,
"But I still want to know why you hit the buzzer."
"You really want to know why I hit the buzzer?"
"Yes."
"Okay. It was arguably one of the worst acts I've ever seen. People come here to be entertained. Honestly, I don't know how you could think that you would win this competition. You're like one of those delusional people who come here with too much attitude, thinking they're going to win the whole thing, and can't accept that they aren't as good as they thought they were."
It felt like the muscles melted from her legs, and then from the rest of her body, and then the bones, and then her guts, till there was only a light left where her brain used to be. Of course, there could only be one logical explanation to this. They had no idea who she was. Man, when she got her hands on that producer guy, she would teach him Siv's lesson to remember. Do not forget about it. He had forgotten to tell them that they were not allowed to ask her where she was from. He'd barely seemed to remember her when she had called him last week to verify that everything was ready. "Ah, Siv Brandt, yeah, I remember." So it didn't surprise her that he had gotten her name wrong. I mean, he'd obviously organized it. Otherwise, her name wouldn't have been on the list with the contestants, so that was clear, which meant that the only logical conclusion was that there was a lack of communication somewhere.
"You really have no idea who I am, do you?"
Siv said and started walking down from the stage.
"We don't have time for this."
"I'm Siv Brandt."
She was standing by the table.
"The girl the producer guy has talked about."
Still no aha moment. Siv got more confused.
"Hey, can I talk with you in private?"
Siv said and looked at the microphones on the table.
"No."
"Okay,"
Siv said and jumped up with her butt on the table.
"I just wanted to say that this feels like a big misunderstanding. You can call up the producer and..."
Look, you really have to go, Matthew Brooks said and looked troubled at the strange woman.
A security guard came up to her and gently put his hand on her shoulder.
Don't touch me,
Siv said, like she didn't like to be touched.
Look, I just want a moment to talk with you.
Come.
The guard nodded to the side with his head. He really tried to be nice about it. Siv didn't move, but then the guard grabbed hold of her arm, and he crushed so hard that the pain spread up through the bone. Then he pulled her down from the table. Normally, people would be escorted backstage again, but this time they just pulled her out through a side door while she screamed and flailed with her arms. Out on the street, and then they let her go. When she tried to get in again, they closed the doors and looked at her from the other side of the glass. A sizable crowd had gathered to see what was going on, so now they all stood on the other side of the big glass wall and stared at her. Siv looked back at all the people. Then she put her index finger against her head like a pistol and pretended to blow her brains out.